are starting our transaction review and calculator practice for September 2017. I cannot believe how fast the year is going. It feels like it's just snapped by just like that. Before I get into my examples and the ideas I want to share, of course, I have the disclaimer that it's up to you to do your own due diligence and consult with your own trusted advisors. This is my opinion only. Also, just a quick reminder that if you're able to come out, I haven't done a live event in quite a while, and I'm pretty excited about this. It'll be a small, intimate gathering, calling it the Property and Paper Summit. It's October 9th and 10th, starting on the evening of the 8th, if you can make it. But it's going to be going in deeply and showing the paperwork, exactly what we're doing on the wraps, the notes, the owner financing, things like that. So if you can all make it, we still have a few spots. Like I said, we're limited by the venue and in the size, and but we still do have some availability. So please go to propertypapersummit.com and check out all the reasons why you should want to join us there. So looking forward to that. Welcome to our newest community members. We have BJ Bart with us, that you just heard his voice a few minutes ago. So welcome so much to Bart, and I want to get to know you a little bit better at the end of this. And Ed Bancroft, I want to say he's from Canada, and so I'm very happy to have him on board. And I think we've been talking a little bit on Facebook about he's interested in mobile homes, how you take small amounts of money and just kind of explode it up. And so and just an announcement to all of our members, we have a brand new site. It was down for a couple of weeks while we were transitioning to something that's right here on my website. It's no longer on a separate website. It just makes a lot more sense for it to be right here. So when you go to noqueen.com, check member login. If you're not a citizen of the realm yet, there's still some information that there's a free section of the members area, so you can be a free member or you can upgrade to a paid member and get all the benefits you can see there. This is just sort of a visual update. I think it will look a lot better, it'll function a lot better, be easier to find content and things like that. So thank you, big thank you to Axel for helping us do that transition. I think I've probably had him transition 2 or 3 times since he's been working with me. It's like, no, now can you move the couch? No, I think I like it. No, can you move the couch over here? So anyway, appreciate that very much. So before we get too far in, I'd like to do just a really quick example using the financial calculator, so that if you don't have a lot of time to be with me, at least this is just a prelude to what I'm going to discuss in detail as we move forward into this call. But this is an actual deal of a troubled land deal that was brought to me in Sun Valley, Idaho. So let's get your calculators out, and hopefully you can follow along and just see if you can get comfortable with these top 5 buttons. That's really all I know how to use. A lot, this is a really robust kind of a calculator, but really I am not a whiz at it, but just knowing how to use these top 5 buttons, I've been able to build a note portfolio since 2009, and it's for a mom and pop operation. It's a fairly decent, I don't know. It's a lot. It's enough. It's enough for me to handle, and I've been able to solve all sorts of financial puzzles just knowing these top 5 buttons. So now this, like I said, I'm going to get into the story, but let's just run the numbers. If someone came to you and said, gosh, if I could just get, now I'm selling my property for, $300,000, the buyer has a down payment, and they want me to do owner financing, but gosh, if I could just walk away with an extra $100,000, that would solve my problem. So I'm willing to carry paper for the borrower, for the buyer, but I need more cash at closing. So let's just figure you're trying to work this out. So if you're saying, okay, well, I can't buy the whole note because I'd have to discount you too high, so let me just buy a partial, which means basically the front end of the note, or whatever you decide, you can buy the back end of the note as well. or a piece of each payment along the way. But in this case, they just needed $100,000 more to show up at the closing table, and then they can make their deal work, right? Buyer gets to buy, seller gets to sell. So let's put in $100,000. That is what's needed at the closing table. So that goes into present value, or this is sometimes loan amount. And just as a reminder, these 3 buttons on the left, I always enter as positive numbers, and these 2 buttons on the right, I always enter as negative numbers. And that's just how I do it. And I keep in my head, is money in, is it money out? But there's different ways that you can do it. So, and I know that the monthly payment is, so this 100 is the money that needs to come to the table. So that's the present value. That's the loan amount. It's not really a loan, but so the amount that's needed at the table. I know I'm going to get 800 in because that's what the borrower can afford or has offered that would be easy for them to handle. So I'm going to put 800. And of course, I'm going to make it a negative number because this is the monthly payment, which goes right here and under payment. And 24 months, in 2 years, they're going to be able to get an USDA agricultural loan. It takes a few months to line those up, but the guy can easily qualify. And now the balloon is a lot higher than this, but the only amount of the balloon that I bought was $122,500. So that's going to be what? Future value. That's the balloon. That's a lump sum to come into the future. So that goes over here to FV, future value. So if you know any 4 of these numbers, you can calculate for the 5th. So I wonder if I give 100,000 now, and I get 24 of these $800 payments, and at the end of 24 months, if I get this, I wonder what my yield would be. So all I do is come over here and push the yield button. It's almost 19% interest. So that sounds pretty interesting so far. I like that number, especially if I have a very safe position, low investment to value. Okay, now that's the way I crafted the deal. When I brought my investor in, I had them bring 110 in. Why would I do that, do you think? If I only really need 100,000 to give to someone, you know, why might I do that? Do you think that I ever have bills and groceries and business trips to pay for? So basically, because of the safety of this deal, I could have my investor bring in 100,000 and I can take 10,000 as a fee for putting this deal together. And let's just see so now that goes into the present value, and he's going to get 12% because this was a land deal. A lot of times the new money that I'm bringing in for the super safe stuff is coming in at 7 and 8%. That's a really market rate for safe product, and where I can compete with there's a lot of money chasing paper and property out there. So, but this, when it's a weird one, you know, it's land. It's not like it's a stick built that everyone understands. It's in Idaho somewhere, right? So, and I'm going to give him 24. I'm not keeping any portion of this, even though I'm managing this note and staying in the middle of it to make sure everything goes well. So here's what I'm wondering. If he brings in 110 and he's getting 12% interest for 24 months, I wonder how much of that balloon my investor is going to need to get their 12%. So I know this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I'm going to solve for this. And I can see that, you can see it's negatively amortizing, right? Because 800 is not, that's not even a full interest payment. So his interest is negatively amortizing. So by the time that, if the balloon goes all the way out 24 months, he's going to be entitled to 118,000, right? So he brings 110 to the table, he gets 800 for 24 months, and at the end of that time, he gets 118,000. And I go, okay, well, I got 10,000 up front, and so, but I know this is the balloon. So at that time, there will be $4,400 left for me. So I kind of have a little kicker built into this at the end. So it's easy for me to see that at a bare minimum, I'm going to make about 14,400 putting this deal together. So it's a really great thing. Does that make sense? BJ, I don't know if you are still.
Yeah, I followed it. So you're buying a partial purchase of a note with this, right?
Correct. And I'm going to go into the details of this, but do you have this calculator?
I do. I followed along with you.
Okay, fantastic. So it's just getting comfortable with this. When you're comfortable with these 5 things, and you can go back and forth and back and forth, you can just make up stuff until it works. Make up the numbers until they work for everybody. So fantastic on that. Now, for just a minute, I want to just talk about a little bit of my background and how I've evolved to where I am now. I was a nurse for many years. That's what I graduated from. I was a bachelor. I got my RN, my 4-year RN, and right out of college, I went to work in the ICU. I was lucky enough that I could get right in. There was a big shortage of nurses at that time, so they kind of fast-tracked me into ICU, where I thought, more of the action would be, and develop my skills to a high level. And that was great. And my goal was to move to the ER, because that's where I thought, hey, that's where all the action is happening. Now, it's really great to have, the ICU. I learned a lot of skills, but like when I would go in, I would know every night, like I could have the same patient load, the same 2 patients, 6 or 8 months straight. They're in multiple organ failure. A lot of them were on the vent. And while there's a lot that you can learn, and especially you can make a difference in people's lives doing the small kindnesses while they're in this very difficult situation, it's just very rote. It's very routine. When you go to work, exactly, basically, unless something strange happens or emergent, which sometimes happen, usually I already knew how my night was going to go. And it's really good to have, and there's a lot of people out there creating systems where, like, they have a business model. Walter is one, since we brought him up earlier, where he's just got a system dialed down. So he buys for this, he sells for this, he creates 2 notes, he sells this note for that, and he does this with this. And then you've got people like Bob Zachmeyer in Tucson. He was on the cruise with me in Alaska this last week too, and he's got his program where it's just create a model, step and repeat, step and repeat, step and repeat, step and repeat. And there's a lot of value that can happen. That's not exactly my style, because what I liked is when I got to the ER, I had developed all these skills, and what I liked was not knowing what's coming. I don't know how my shift's going to go. I want to know that no matter what comes through the door, I'm going to bring what I have developed and be able to solve that problem. Stabilize, go to ICU, stabilize, go to OR, and stabilize social worker. I mean, there was a lot of heartbreaking stuff that we dealt with, but that's just kind of the style, and I would say that's what I've brought into the financial space. Is like, gosh, I don't have one thing that I do, and in fact, I would probably get bored. So what I like is, once you understand the secondary market for notes, that's the piece of the puzzle that most people don't have. But when you have that, it's that no matter what situation, whether it's buying real estate, buying paper, doing a loan, or solving something like this deal that I'm going to show you that's fairly complicated, it's like, man, I really get off on that. I just love knowing that I have all these tools in my toolbox. So no matter what in my community or in someone else's community that I come up with, I can stabilize that situation, basically go around triaging, financial situations. Mostly I like to develop my business in my local community, but realistically, I do business all over the country. So, so basically, I like to shop at the farmer's market because I feel it's more wholesome. It's to me, this owner financing and notes that we're talking about is local, organic, free range, non-GMO financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. And I feel that it's a much more whole and honest system, and helps us be understand our interconnectedness, and how you can't steal money from you can't take too much out of this deal, because then you're going to impoverish some other section. And it just helps you when there's heartbeats on either side of a transaction. It's not like the banks where it's very grotesquely out of balance. We had Henry Ford. This is one of my favorite quotes. It is well enough that the people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. So that should be pretty alarming. And if people, you can go to sleep and go, weird old dude, or we can go, these are the wealth vampires. I like this. And here's my quote, that you can either look into why Henry Ford and others would say things like that, or you can just zone out with your Diet Coke and your favorite TV program. The wealth vampires on Washington and Wall Street would prefer that you sit back and do nothing. It's easier to suck your financial blood when you're docile and distracted. I think it behooves all of us to figure out how we unplug from this is basically a tapeworm around Washington and Wall Street, where it's a very unhealthy, unwholesome financial system that has no accountability whatsoever. The family saves money, they send money into the bank or whatever, and the bank, if you're lucky, on your savings account gives you back 1%. At the same time, they're giving a credit card to some small business owner in your town, at 10 to 19%. So they're getting back all this money and paying you a little bit. I say, let's just get rid of these guys and figure out how mom and pops can safely work together and do better and get a safe 6 to 9% at least. And just cut out this as much as possible. And it's anyway, that's my passion. So, and why I think it matters. Of course, I love making money for myself and my family, but I also just feel like it's part of a financial revolution whose time has come. So, all right, so getting into this seller, this is someone who inherited 246 acres of land in Sun Valley, Idaho, and he hadn't been able to sell it because it was supposedly landlocked, right? It was just contiguous with other parcels with no recorded easement. So he should have been able to get $1,500 to $2,000 per acre, which would mean about $269,000 up to $492,000, and he had it listed for, high threes, low fours, I think, for a long time, and nothing was happening because of this issue of being landlocked. I mean, his only choice would be to sell for cheap to someone who had a contiguous parcel, and he didn't want to take that price. So, but this buyer is a guy who's a local businessman. He's very well liked and trusted. He's friends with a lot of these wealthy landowners that are around here, and he just kept looking and looking and looking. And he found something old, I can't remember how to talk about it correctly, but he found an easement, a really old thing that no one had seen. And so they, after about 6 to 9 months, were able to record this easement that all of a sudden made this 246 acres a lot worth what it was worth, right? No one would pay there. He was only offered, I think, 150 while everyone thought it was landlocked. But so what he did is says, number one, he inherited it. So and number two, he had cancer. So he really wanted a quick sale, and he was really grateful to this guy. And to his credit, he said, look, if it weren't for you, I'd still be in a pickle. So I'll tell you what, I need quick money, and I'll let you have this for $225,000. Since you did all this work and solved this problem for me, I'll let you have it for $225,000. But here's the catch: I need you to close in a month. I'll give you 30 days to close on this, and if you can, what a killer of a price, right? He's getting it $100,000 to $200,000 below market. So but he didn't have that, right? Right here, he only had 25,000 cash to put down, and the seller needed a minimum after closing costs, which would be eaten up by this 25,000 probably. He needed 100 grand. So it's like, oh gosh. So now the guy's out there, he's looking for hard money, but you know, that's not a lot of money to put down. You know, most hard money lenders want you to see that you have 20, 30, 40% down, especially on a land deal. So he couldn't find any hard money lenders in his area, and I myself was not interested in doing a private money loan for a variety of reasons. But here's the other deal. Even if he could find someone to give him the loan, if he made a purchase at 225, he would have a hard time refinancing. So because it would devalue the property, right? Because it would just like cut down land values. So they didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep the value of the acreage up there, and it would help him with that refi. It's like, okay, if I need 200,000 to refi out of this, I would rather the land is worth 350 than 225. So we needed to keep the purchase price up there with what it was really worth. So this is what we did. We created, and there was attorneys on their side that I was working with them to help them kind of understand what I needed, and some of the language that how I needed the note drawn up. So that was interesting. A lot of times, you know, you just I felt pretty lucky that, you know, we could get past any reservations that these attorneys had. So what we did is we made on paper the sales price $350,000. I'm going to bring this calculator up. So $350,000, and with his $25,000 down, that meant the note was $325,000, and that goes right here in present value. They had already agreed on 5%, even though this is a sort of, you know, arbitrary number. And if, you know, if you look at, and here's this recall button so recall PV, and I want a 5% interest only, right? Times 0.05 equals this, divided by 12. That is what the monthly interest would be, $1354. But he goes, guess what? I only want to pay $800 a month. And we're going, okay. So now we have even more pieces to put in the pie. So what does that mean? If he's going to make a payment that's less than interest, what does that mean? That's a negatively amortizing loan, right? So the balance of the loan keeps going up. And just to remind you guys, he's a stable business owner in town, very well liked. He has a 720 plus credit score, so he has a good credit score. He's a very responsible guy. And so the deal was, if he paid off inside of 24 months, any time in the next 24 months, if he pays off, he would get a principal reduction on the balloon that was owed. And so even if he refinanced a month after this, or 24 months after this, his balloon was going to be locked in at 2225. So that is just how we did it. And just on as an example, you can see that part of the note I just put up here, you can see that it's 325. You can see that the maturity date is next year. Okay, he's almost a year into this, and that at any time his payoff on or before November 15th, 2018, he's going to have a balloon payment of 222, whatever that discount is, depending on how long it rides, is how much of a short payoff he's getting. It's 5% interest. For $1,354, the loan will be negatively amortizing. And this is what it looked like. This is T-value. If you guys don't use T-value, it's a really helpful program for figuring out these amortizations. Highly customizable, so even when you have the weird ones, you can really do a lot with this. I love it. I use it all the time in my business. So basically, here's the 5%, here's the loan amount, here's the monthly payment, the term, and you can see with each payment, it's going up and up and up, right? So If he doesn't make that 24-month maturity date, then the note reverts back to this balance. So he's very, very motivated, right? He's not only getting a good deal, but the consequences of not performing in the time frame is going to be very, very painful, but potentially an opportunity, you know, if all things go crazy, you know, this is a great opportunity for the note, the person who's invested in the note. So the seller, remember, they just needed their $225,000, and they had agreed that they didn't need it all now. They were willing, if they got 125 at closing, they were willing to take their remainder portion anytime in the next 24 months. So they said, yeah, we want our 225, and we're willing to wait for a big chunk of it. So that gave us an opportunity to create a solution. So the seller was going to get 225. And remember, the balloon from the borrower is 222. So, so you can see that the borrower actually paid a little bit more. And on my next slide, it'll be easy.
Hey, Don.
Yeah, is this?
What was this?
Yeah.
Is BJ?
Yeah.
What was the $300,000 number you had on the slide before this?
That 350 was. Well, 350 was the purchase price on the HUD, and 325 after the $25,000 down payment was the note amount, right? And so that's actually how the deal was structured. But we wrote into the note a guaranteed short payoff if he performed inside of 24 months, so that instead of owing 325 and counting, he was only going to owe 222.
Got it.
Right? Okay. So remember that deal we just did a little bit ago? That's where we came up for, gosh. So out of this 222 that he's supposed to pay, 100 of that goes to the seller, so they get their 225. And that leaves 122.5 for me and my investor. And remember, we already said that, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. You know, we're pretty safe. Loan to value, right? Investment to value is excellent, even though this is a non-conforming property. And, you know, I don't really know. Land can be worth a lot, and the land can disappear. Its value can be tough and crazy, right? So I like, in these instances, a lot of security. So here's a visual representation of this deal where we can see that it's worth 369 and up. The purchase price was here at 350. On paper, that's what it is. So when he goes to refi, they're going to see that he bought it at pretty close to market value. It doesn't devalue the property, and it makes his loan to value look a lot more favorable for the financing institution. So anyway, and this number here, 225, is the amount that the seller needed to be happy, right? They're getting their 25,000 down. They got 100,000 from a partial note sale, and they have 100,000 remainder interest. So they're down here, but this number is what the seller or the buyer actually paid for the property, right? Because his balloon is 222. These are numbers I just made them up, right? I kept going back and forth on the calculator and t-value, and what would my investor need, and what does the seller need, and what does the buyer need, and gosh, what do I need? I like to get paid in this deal, right? So I just reverse engineered it with going, here's all the pieces we got on the table. How can we put them together and make everybody happy? So he owes still 222, but remember, he put down 25,000. So between this balloon that he owes here and his 25,000, he's actually paying a 10% premium. So his all-in price, when all is said and done, is 247.5. Do you follow that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So,
because we never put this anywhere. It's just extrapolated by the fact that, hey, here's what he put down. Here's the balloon that we pulled out of the air to make everything work.
How much all these numbers, this money, if you could just kind of walk through and show me like which amount came from what party and where did it go to?
Great. Okay, fantastic. So what we had at closing was this 25,000 that came from who?
That came from your buyer.
Yeah, so the buyer had 25,000 down. I mean, I'm sure he was wishing he had 225 cash laying around, because then he could have just snapped this up right away, no drama, right? But he was, running out of time. He needed the deal to close quickly, and we closed this, I want to say, inside of 3 weeks. So that's what I love about, these financial solutions that are private. You can get stuff done. Okay, now this 100,000 went to the seller, but it came from who?
It came from your investor you brought to the table.
Yeah, me and my investor. We brought this, and what we did is take a first position. We bought
that 25. Who did that 25 go to?
Okay, the 25 went to the seller, because remember, they need 225.
Did it go to them? The seller only wanted 100 down initially, right?
Well, he wanted to clear 100. So okay. Most of this down payment was going to cover closing costs, the realtors involved in things. Mm-hmm. So he said, look, get me an extra 100,000 some way, and I'll wait for the remainder interest.
Got it.
So I created this note in a way that I could buy without ruining the deal financially for everyone. I could buy it at closing, table funding, right? They created it and I bought it. Back to back. So the 25 went to the seller. They also got 100,000 for me buying the front end. I'm also in first lien position, even though it's one note. I get paid first. Me and my investors are the first ones to get paid. The seller has to wait for this extra 100,000, right, until the balloon comes, till the guy refinances and pays everybody off.
Right. So at the closing, the seller received 125,000.
Correct.
Less whatever the fees were.
Exactly.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And they agreed, just to take 100. It's a pretty good deal, really, because normally they would say, well, if I'm going to wait for it, I want more. He was just like, hey, look, I have so many health problems. I don't want to deal with it. You are good to me. I want you to have it. He's very motivated. So that gave us the room. If a seller needs all cash and it's a high price, it's harder to make, something work. So, is that good for now? Any other questions, comments for anyone? I think Axel might be good at keeping track of any chats that come through. But anyway, this is just bringing up the amortization from my investor, right? They're at 12% here, and they brought in 110,000. They get 24 payments of 800, and you can see that each month the amount that I owe them at payoff is increasing a little bit every month. So if it went all the way out, remember we came to that 118,000. If it went out 24 months, you can see that if this thing pays off sooner, if it paid off basically at 7 months, which would have been a little earlier this summer, they would have only needed 112, and there would have been with 122.5 payoff, you can see that that's an extra 10,000 potentially on the back end for me as the deal maker, the rainmaker. And but if it goes all the way out, that will shrink down to 4,400, if you remember that slide. So basically, so the story now is that I just got word that he has. I go, gosh, I thought he was working on that refi. I just wondered, what was happening. So he said, well, I didn't want to refi until I reduced the principal balance even more. And so he's been in escrow for a while, and it's finally closing this month on another property. So he's going to take his net proceeds. He's getting a big chunk of change out of the sale of that property, and so he's going to take 100,000 of that and pay down this loan. So this is just how it's evolving, how the movie's playing out, right? So he owes, no matter when it is, right? His balloon payment is 2,225 anytime in the next 2 years. So this is one of those customizable, weird ones, like the weird thing that comes through the ER, and you just go, oh my gosh, what do we do? How do we, handle this? How do we make it work? How do we stop the bleeding? How do we stabilize? How do we make this person in a better state of health, right? So this is an unusual one, and I think it's fun to see what you can do when you have a good working knowledge of these principles. So instead of the 222, since he's paying down 100,000, he's only going to owe this number, right? I'll just do it on the calculator. He owes the 2225. But he's paying down $100,000. So who does that go to? Who's in first position on this note? Who's got the first right to take money off the table?
Would it be you and your investor?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we bought the front end partial. Even though we only bought part of the money due on that note, we took a full assignment of the whole note, and there's a third-party note servicer keeping score for everyone. So there's someone that is taking the payment and making sure I get my part and making sure that the seller gets their remainder interest. See, so we've made it safe for everybody. It's not like I can steal, not that I would, but you know, neutral third party is a really great thing, right? There's a reason that we have those for real estate escrows and everything. So that's how much he's owed, and how much is due to my investor this month. I wonder if it's on this one. Yep, right here, 113,138. So I'm going to take that 100,000 and pay off my investor, right? I want to make them safe, first of all and foremost, and I'll take, if everything goes perfectly, then I'll take an extra upside bump on the other side. So he's owed that much. So after I pay him his 130, well, I pay it down. So he's only owed now, after I pay him down, and I'm going to put this 13,138. Now that's all that's owed to my investor. So I'm going to put that in present value for the purposes of this. And he's still, my investor, you know, he's still owed money, and our deal says that he's still going to get $800 a month. So I'm not going to touch that number. Remember, he's at 12% interest. So I'm going to put that in this section. And basically, I guess, was that 9 payments that it was? I don't know. I guess we have, what's 24, recall, and minus 9. So I think we have 15 more payments. So I wonder, you know, at the time that the maturity is, basically he's been overpaid. He'll be paid off really quickly. So, you know, let me just zero this out. Okay, this is what I want to know is, if he's still only got 13,000 left in the deal at 12% and he's getting 800, I wonder, and there's no future value, I can already tell he would have been paid off before the maturity date. Now I'm going to solve for this. I wonder how many payments he needs. He needs 18. I must have figured that wrong. I wonder why. That is so weird. 13,138. Sometimes when I'm doing public math, it kind of gets all flustered up. But you know, let's just say that now that he's going to pay off this extra amount, let's just say it just takes him another 6 months from now, start his loan process. You know, how much will my investor be entitled to? Okay, you know, $9,000. Okay, what if it takes 9 months? What if it's next summer? Okay, by then he'll only need that, you know. You can see that every month that goes out, he's going to need less and less, because his 800 is knocking down what he's owed really, really quickly. So let's just pretend, you know, he doesn't get around to doing this till next summer, basically. So basically 10 months out, my investor is going to only need 6,000. And this is kind of, you know, going back to figuring, just here's our deal again, right? Here's what the buyer's really paying. He's paid his 25,000 down, plus he paid an additional 100,000 in principal reduction, which knocked down our number. The seller still has their 100,000 remainder interest, and now we're only owed 22.5. So that's 22.5 coming to me and my investor. My investor, basically by next summer, by next July, will be about 6,000. So when that balloon comes through, 22.5 minus 6,000 is 16.5. Now this worked out even better than I imagined, right? So basically I got 10,000 on the front end, and there's still a remainder interest of 16,000. Now I didn't expect more than about 4,000 or 5,000. So this is kind of, for me, just staying in the deal and crafting it and just keeping everyone safe. That's going to be a really nice deal for me, and it really solved everybody's problem. My investor was happy, buyer was happy, seller was happy, all of that. So that is my main example for tonight. And so I could just talk about, just go over some ideas if anyone wants to kind of know how that Financial Friends cruise was. If you haven't been, having a group of people that are all really smart, have a lot of integrity, and active in the business, yeah, a lot of people have, products or events that they do, but that's not how they're making their money. There's other people out there that their whole model is really just selling education. They might do a little bit in the business, but they're not in the grind every day. This is a fantastic group. So I can't recommend them highly enough. FinancialFriendsNetwork.com. I got a lot out of being there. But BJ, you being new, can we just talk about, can you introduce us to you a little bit?
Sure.
So you moved from Florida to Las Vegas.
I was born and raised in Sacramento, California.
Okay. All right.
And I moved out to Florida when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I happened to have a windfall of cash hit me at 18.
Okay. Was that painful? Did you break an arm?
No, it was funny. I had started a business in college, and I made a decent amount. And I had talked to my father. I'm like, hey, what do I do with all this? And he said, you're young, son, go blow it. And I'm like, oh, no, don't tell me that.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what the heck? That's the worst advice you could give me. And you always do the opposite of what your parents tell you. So I decided, oh, well, okay, I'm going to go enjoy it a little bit. Should I move to Vegas? And I'm like, oh, I'm 18. I'm not 21. There's not much to really do out there. What's the next best place I could go and, get away from my parents too? Oh, Florida. It's the other side of the country. Let's move out to Miami Beach.
Sacramento to Miami, yeah.
Yeah, so I moved out there, and I spent it's been a decent amount of money before I realized you can only party so much in life. You need to get serious and go after some investments. And a roommate I had at the time was flipping houses. He would buy them on the MLS and sell them and fix them up that way. And so I'd been on my computer and I was like, what's this whole foreclosure thing? And so we kind of got into buying foreclosures at auction.
Mm-hmm.
Then in Florida, they got these other things called tax deeds.
Mm-hmm.
So we were buying tax deeds at auction. But then the market started getting real competitive, and we got a lot of people coming in bidding at auction, driving away our profits. So like,
exactly,
man, we need to get these houses before they go to auction. So we started building up a nice little portfolio of houses before they went to auction that we would acquire.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just sat down and grinded and built up a portfolio of about 80 properties.
Wow, fantastic.
Over the course of 6 years. So
how old are you now, BJ?
26. Today's my birthday.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Oh my goodness. See, you little millennial. See, you're the age of my my oldest daughter. So look at you. Good for you. Like, yeah. you guys can catch on to the program pretty quick, and by the time you're 30, figure stuff out that's taking me into my 50s and 60s. So it's awesome.
That's the hope, right? And then
Yeah,
so
no.
about 6 months ago, I moved out here to Vegas.
Okay.
And so I've been hunting properties in the Vegas area ever since.
What are you going on? What are you going after currently? What's your strategy?
I'm taking on a lot of vacant homes. So I just go after them, fix and flips, and then buy and holds.
Okay, so how are you identifying the vacant properties?
The United States Postal Service do not mail list.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's there's I think at the peak in the market here in Clark County there was a really large number of vacant homes, and now there's only about 14 to 1800 homes that are vacant. And
Gotcha.
I've kind of mastered search and destroy. So it's instead of widespread campaigns with mailers and stuff, I'll pick one property, pull out the file, and go find
Just go
heirs or
deep. Use
yeah, go
skip
really.
tracing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are these just to share with the group? Are these properties? Are they
single
generally
family, low income residential.
right? And were they foreclosure? Were they tax? Were they divorce situations? What you know?
It
Are they
there's
REOs? Are they?
probate, no REOs, a lot of probates and deaths in the family.
Mhm.
Absentee owners, I think is what it's called, where there's just people out of state don't want to manage them anymore.
Mhm.
A lot of just life situations that happen where the people don't want to sell them or they're fighting with brothers and sisters, and you got to kind of be a peacemaker between the family to make the deal work.
Right. Well, it's basically at 26 you have to be a master family therapist, don't you?
Yeah. You come across some real interesting ones, or you get other people that have been in the game doing real estate and they just don't want to hold their properties anymore or fix them or deal with tenants. So um,
Yeah, interesting. Well, good for you. That US do not mail, is that something that's pretty easy for anyone to find? If that was none of us are in your market that I know of, but if you don't mind sharing, how
sure.
is that some
I
website that you
so I think ListSource might have a
this
copy of it.
source does that? Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get it from ListSource. I got it from FreedomSoft currently. I think it's a CRM uh,
Mm.
for leads, but they also have an additional pay us and we'll show you all the um, vacant properties in your city.
Who put that one together?
FreedomSoft?
Yeah. Who,
I don't.
who's the guy that did that?
I have no idea. It's just one of the systems that
Because
we use.
this is a topic that came up on the cruise too. It's like, there's a lot of people peddling lists and things, and
Hmm.
and they're just not all created equal.
So what I think FreedomSoft does is they pull their data from
Introducing
Atom.
FreedomSoft.
Go ahead.
They pull their data from Atom. So if you want to go up the chain, Atom Data Solutions, which is the parent company of Realty Track.
Adam, I'm
Just
sorry.
Realty Track.
Oh, Realty Truck? Oh
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I'm
Atom
kind of
Atom owns Realty Track,
oh, okay.
and they so the first business where I
Adam,
made all my money at
right
18,
here. Go ahead. I'm
the
sorry.
first business where I made my money at 18 was programming. I was a programmer. I was
Good
a
for
tech guy.
you. So, that's the thing when if the game is changing to the people who can manage and data and create like those little shortcuts. Like you guys grew up on video games and stuff. Oh, what's the cheat to the next level?
Yeah.
You guys like figure this stuff out. It's awesome. But it really is changing. It's whoever's good at best of the data, you can save so much of your marketing dollars,
So
right?
this company here is they have national contracts with the USP, or not national, but they have the big contract with the post office, and they're the ones that pull the list. So if you
Gotcha.
ever find someone that's going to try and resell you a vacant homes list from the post office, they're getting it from this company. I don't think there are any other larger companies that pulled that actual list from the post office.
Hey, just out of curiosity, this is another, gosh, um, a deal. Let's see. Oh, here's another company that so it's very expensive. I wondered just if you'd heard of it.
Sure.
A guy that's a really, pretty strong player. He's out of Colorado. He's also doing some business in. He bought a home investors franchise I forget where it is, somewhere in Florida. It starts with a P, I think.
Jacksonville,
Pensacola.
Panama City.
Pensacola.
Oh, Pensacola. I have some properties out there.
Okay, yeah. So he just bought a home investors franchise, and he's tried everything. Like I've tried a lot of different things because since I've been on the lam to broaden my portfolio to where, property. I've got all this paper, but I want property, and largely so I can paper it out and create home ownership and things like that. But he likes this. He says
Dan.
their data. Have you heard of these people?
I haven't.
Yeah, so apparently it's pretty expensive, it's pretty pricey, but they, have taken the data and created all these, they're smart like you with these techie things and their statistics and pull together like 100 different, they'll filter all this information through 100 different filters and come up with a list of the people, the
credible leads or who they think.
Yeah, the ones that are most highly likely to be motivated sellers. They're probably tax defaulted. They might be in pre-foreclosure. They have several different corroborating. They might be vacant home. All these things, and so they pass it through. And it's like instead of mailing to the list this big, it comes down to here's the ones you should go deep on, like your strategy. So, I mean, that's awesome that you can take. Just a relatively small little niche and do that's. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you adding that value to the community.
Yeah, not an issue.
Yeah. So is there anything? We are at about an hour here. And that's kind of all I had. Is there anything else from anyone? I don't know if Mike or Peggy can talk. I know sometimes we just get this feedback if someone's on speaker or a voice over IP or something like that. Anything? I always love being able to hear voices, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in and spending this hour with me tonight. And again, BJ, really great to have you on board. Really, really pleased. And are you going to be able to drive up the 95? It's only a 7.5-hour drive to Carson.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm guaranteed to be in Tahoe during the winter. I snowboard avidly, so.
Oh, fantastic.
Maybe I'll make it for the Property and Paper Summit you're having up there. It'd be
nice.
Yeah,
well, there won't be any snow by that time.
You're right.
But where do you ski? What's your favorite?
I go snowboarding at Heavenly right there.
Heavenly. That's tough for snowboarders. There's a lot of flat space for you guys. That can be tricky. All those traversing across the mountain from California to Nevada.
Yeah, me and my younger brother actually just moved him here to Vegas a month ago, and I'm training him in the whole game. We like to go down the front side of the mountain there that you're not supposed to go down and come all the way down to the lodge.
Oh my gosh. Over on the California side?
Yes, on the California side.
That is dangerous. Now, son.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, you
we have a nurse in our phone book now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be down at the bottom with the first aid kit. Or maybe I'll just hit you over the head with the club and you just be done with it. But yeah, definitely. If you can't make it to the summit, be sure that we have a day, a couple hours on the hill together, and you can just snowboard nice and slow for me. And
of course.
That would be fun. So. All right. Well, thanks again. And yeah, please come up if you can make it. Just come up for that. It'd be great to have you. You'd be a heck of a lot of fun to have that young energy and your ideas there at the summit. And whatever the reason is that you join this community, whatever I can add to you get a lot there. There's going to be a lot of brain juice between myself and other people. You get a real fast track. So I hope you can make it. All right, so that's it for tonight. Thanks again for tuning in. Now, use your powers for good and go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.